Hello, my friends. I'm here today to help you understand exactly what all these little letters of the alphabet mean when they are applied to poetry. So when your teacher says, figure out the rhyme scheme of a poem, and what your teacher wants you to do is come up with your own little pattern of letters, what is your teacher really asking you to do? What is rhyme scheme? How do we figure it out? And why is it important? Let's start with this poem by Christina Rossetti. This is called Who Has Seen the Wind? Now, whenever you meet a poem for the first time, read it out loud at least a couple of times. This helps you listen to the words in a poem. A poet always selects just the perfect word, and this is especially true at the end of each line. And so as you listen to this poem, I want you also to be thinking at the end of each line, what rhymes with what? Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. So a little bit of poetic terminology first. This right here is called, guess what? I know this is super difficult. It's called a line. Wow, that was tough, right? So what makes poetry different than writing a paragraph is that it's not sentences and they're not put together in a paragraph form. However, you notice here we have two kind of pieces of poetry that are in the same poem, kind of similar to how paragraphs make up a book. So this poem, you would say, has 8 lines, but the lines are divided into 2 separate pieces. And when we have a poem divided into pieces, like this right here and this right here, we have a special word for it. We call it a stanza. So from an organizational viewpoint, you would say, this poem has 2 stanzas of 4 lines each for a total of 8 lines. So far, so good? Okay. Now, let's talk about one of the greatest poets of all times, Dr. Seuss. Okay, are you saying, hold on, Dr. Seuss, not a poet. I've read his books. He wrote books, not poems. Yes and no. He did not write in prose. He didn't write paragraphs, did he? He wrote like this, line after line, and they all happen to rhyme. Now this brings up a common question. Can something be a poem if it doesn't rhyme? Well, what do you think? Yes. If it is not written as sentences in a paragraph, it is a poem. A poem does not have to rhyme. Sometimes poems don't, and we have a phrase for that. We call it free verse. That's when a poem doesn't really have a rhyme scheme or a meter. We're not getting into meter today. Dr. Seuss, though, as you probably picked up on when you were about 3 years old, had a very definite rhyme scheme to his poetry. So read this out loud. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like them in a boat. I do not like them with a goat. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. Okay, pretty easy here to see what rhymes, correct? So let me explain how we figure out rhyme scheme. For rhyme scheme, you look at the ending sound of each line of a poem. The first line of every poem and of every stanza in a poem is going to be the first letter of the alphabet. So if you know your alphabet, you're good to go and you can do rhyme scheme. So the sound ham is going to get an A, and anything in the poem that rhymes with ham is also going to get an A. Okay, or I should say in that particular stanza will get an A. There are a couple ways to do it. Some people like to go line by line. They look at this next line and they figure out what letter that end sound would require. Here it's A because am rhymes with ham. Some people like to go through the entire stanza and just pick out anything else that rhymes with that A sound, ham, and put an A by it. Either way is fine. Here I'm just going to go line by line. So ham gets an A, am rhymes with ham, so it gets a B. When we get down to boat, guess what? New sound, doesn't rhyme with am, so we go to the next letter of the alphabet, B. Like I said, if you know your alphabet, you can do this. Okay, so we've taken care of ham, am, boat. Now we're at goat. What does that rhyme with? Rhymes with boat, so it gets a B. Next line, house. If that rhymed with something that we'd already seen, it would get either A or B. It does not. It is a new sound, so it gets a C. And mouse, of course, rhymes with house, so it's also going to get a C. So ask yourself, what if I added on to this wonderful poem and I had a line that was something like, I do not like them with jam. I do not like them in a moat. What would my rhyme scheme be then for those two lines? Well, you would look at jam and you would say, have I heard the jam or the am sound before? Sure have. It's an A sound, isn't it? So that would get an A. Moat, have we heard that before? Yep. Goat and boat, which are the B sounds. So it's right there. So you would say, I'll erase my attempt at poetry there, but you would say the rhyme scheme for this is AA, BB, CC. Now, it does not have to be in couplets like this. You can have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And I suppose you could go all the way to Z. Now, let's try Christina Rossetti's poem. Okay, you can try it on your own. Pause this, or I'll help you through it. Let's go ahead and underline all the N sounds. Wind, you, trembling, through. Did you hear anything in there that rhymes? I think you and through, we should probably keep an eye on because they rhyme. It's really important when you are trying to do rhyme scheme to read it out loud because, in English, two words can rhyme and look absolutely nothing alike. So always say the N sounds out loud. Now, what sound do we start with? Or what letter? A. Okay, U. Is that rhyming with wind or is it a new sound? It's new, gets a B. Trembling. Listen to that very last syllable, ling. Wind, you, ling. Totally new sound, that's a C. Through, that rhymes with you, so we go back up to B. So this stanza is A, B, C, B. Now make a prediction. Is the next stanza going to be just like this? Or will it be different? If it's different, is that bad? And the answer is no, it's not. So do the next stanza, wind, I, heads, by. Think I heard a rhyme in there. Wind, we're going back to A because we started a new stanza. And it just so happens that wind is the same A sound from the previous stanza. I, that's a B, new sound. Heads, wind, I, heads, new sound. By, we're going back up to I, which is a B sound. So this particular poem, you would say it is organized into two stanzas of 4 lines apiece. And it has a consistent rhyme scheme through both stanzas of A, B, C, B. Got it? Good. Let's make it a little more complicated. This is one of my favorite poems. I teach this quite a bit. It's called The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And there are some interesting stories that surround this poem, but I'll keep it for class. For now, let's focus on the organization, meaning the stanzas, the lines per stanza, and also the rhyme scheme. So I'm going to read it out loud, then we'll do a couple of the stanzas, and I will leave the rest for you to figure out on your own. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. First of all, look at the organization. How many stanzas do we have? We have, obviously, 4 stanzas. How many lines do we have per stanza? We have 5 per stanza for a total of 20 lines. Are poets allowed to write one stanza of 3 lines and another of 7 and then one of 19? Of course they are. There are no rules in poetry, the poetry police are not going to come and take them away for inconsistent lengths of stanzas. So this one just happens, it's kind of typical Frost, to be the same length of lines per stanza. Now let's look at rhyme scheme. So start by underlining and saying the N sounds. Would, both, stood, could, growth. And this is what I mean by reading them out loud. Could and would really don't look alike. So say them out loud. Start off with A. Would gets an A. Both, new sound, B. Stood, rhymes with would, we're going back to A. Could, it rhymes with both stood and would, so it gets an A. Growth, B. Okay, so the stanza of this, or the rhyme scheme of this first stanza is A, B, A, A, B. I'll do the second stanza with you and then you are on your own. We have fair, claim, where, there, same. So fair, going to start off with an A, going to freehand it here. Claim, that's a new sound, gets a B. Where, looks nothing like fair, but it is still an A. There, looks nothing like where or fair, it is still an A. Same, also looks nothing like claim, you have to love English, but it rhymes, so it is a B. So at least for the first two stanzas, we have consistent rhyme schemes of AB, AAB. So try it for yourself. See if Frost continues the rhyme scheme for stanzas 3 and 4, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.